Welcome to Magic Arcanum. I'm Ryan Gomez. Behind the scenes is Nicole Burdick, and we're so glad you're here because it's story time. Commander Masters is a sandbox full of awesome toys, with cards representing some of the most iconic characters, locations, and events in all of Magic the Gathering. While a 100 card pile feels like it has room for everything, you will of course have to be strategic about what you include, and those choices tell a story. The composition of your deck will reveal to the other players at your table something about you, what you value, how you like to have fun, or maybe just your favorite color, but still, every card present or absent adds to that story. And if you're feeling really ambitious, you can take that into consideration from the very start and craft a deck with the goal of authoring its own story. So that's what we're going to talk about today, how to tell a story with your Commander deck, brought to you by the Magic the Gathering Ambassador Program. Check out my link in the description to order Commander Masters now. When it comes to making a new Commander deck, a lot of players will logically start by picking the commander, the legendary character that will set the tone for the whole thing, which makes this a sort of table of contents for your story because the commander is revealed to the other players at the start of the game, and it acts as a preview of things to come. So how can we have fun with this, and what legends are best for leading a deck that's trying to tell a story? Well, Planeswalkers are the heart and soul of Magic the Gathering. They travel the multiverse, spreading hope or fear, and they connect these fantastic worlds together with a common thread. Unfortunately, only a handful of Planeswalkers can be your commander, either by having a card that specifically says it can, or by virtue of being what we call a flip walker, with a legendary creature front and then a Planeswalker back. So those are your low-hanging fruit. If you love a certain Planeswalker and want to tell their story, you could definitely start with one of those existing cards. But we've got another option I like just as much. A lot of Planeswalkers have someone in their life that isn't a Planeswalker, and those legends are often a great way to make what I call a secret Planeswalker story deck. Ashaya is a legendary elemental who shares a special bond with Nissa. Pia is Chandra's mom. Josu Vess is Liliana's brother. Alhammaret is the Sphinx that ignited Jace's spark. Hixis taught Gideon how to lock down his opponents, and there are so many other cool legends that share history and a color with your favorite Planeswalker, just begging to lead your next deck. And then of course you fill the 99 with all of the relevant Planeswalker cards, in case that wasn't clear. But what if you're like Nicole and you personally aren't that attached to Planeswalkers? What other stories can we start to tell with our commander? You could pick a legend from the set that was your introduction to the game. For me, that was Exodus back in 1998. So I can pick Ertai or Miri. Kids today don't know how good they have it with all their choices, let me tell you. Anyway, with over 30 years of history, nostalgia can be a huge part of your Magic experience, and that's another great avenue to explore when it comes to deck construction. Maybe the story you want to tell is all about the game's most iconic relics and artifacts being studied on Dominaria. A newer legend, like Wrath, mixed with a lot of old bordered cards would be a great way to do that. Or maybe you like a specific type of creature. Grab one angel from each year of Magic's history and unite them against the threats of the multiverse under the benevolent wings of Giada from Streets of New Capenna. Like I said, your chosen commander definitely sets the tone for the rest of your deck, but your lands are another great opportunity to add to your story. Even after you've slotted in your command tower and all of your other fancy non-basics, you're still going to have need for some simple plains, islands, swamps, mountains, and/or forests. Use your lands to paint a picture. Set the scene for your story. Make them a character. What do I mean by that? Well, Let's say we're doing that Liliana deck with her dear brother Josu as the commander. What basic swamps would work best to tell the story of the Vess family? Something with zombies in the art, like this one from Jumpstart? Or the full art stained glass of Dominaria United to represent their childhood home and decadent upbringing? Those are both great choices, but again, here on Magic Arcanum, we can always do more with lore. Liliana has been around for a while. She's traveled a lot in that time, and her meandering path through life has brought her to some very interesting places. Why not catalog as many as you can with a different basic land for each place she's visited? Or if you prefer everything to match, pick the location in her journey that has the most impact for you. Was it the rubble-filled streets of Ravnica during the War of the Spark when she witnessed Gideon's selfless act of sacrifice? Was it the polished onyx floors of Strixhaven where she found new purpose in her own life? Basic land art is some of the most impressive in the whole game, and there are so many great options that add to your deck's story. So do not skip over this step. Really give it some thought. You'll see these cards every game, and you'll be glad you put the time into finding the perfect ones, I promise. All right, we've got a compelling main character and an artistically chosen setting. What happens next? You could just toss in all of the cards that refer to your hero in name or flavor text or art. That's an easy way to fill 99 sleeves, for sure. That ends up making more of a montage. It gives the impression of a character, and it might include some fun bits of lore, but it doesn't really take us on a journey as players of the game. One way to give your deck more focus is to limit yourself to a single plane or block, or what I like to call that one cool moment. For example, I've got a Nicol Bolas commander deck that captures him at the height of his post-mending power. That means it's almost entirely cards from just Amonkhet, Hour of Devastation, and War of the Spark, as he was gathering his forces and setting out to enact the Elder Spell. By drawing from just these 3 sets of cards, the deck actually tells a more complete story. I'm forced to include oddball stuff that maybe doesn't usually see play, but reminds us how cunning Bolas was and how he was able to twist an entire plane to his bidding. Now, I also peppered in some cards from other sets, like Patient Rebuilding from M19, but I was very deliberate here and tried to avoid the temptation to just pour in all of the Grixis staples you would expect from a Nicol Bolas deck. Maybe you want to tell a story about equipment. How can you focus on that one cool moment? Perhaps your brave knight just stepped into the castle armory and now must carefully pick the weapons and armor that will help them defeat the dragon that threatens the kingdom. This would feel very different from an equipment deck built around the people on Zendikar, who must impulsively grab whatever is available as they try to defend Seagate from an onslaught of Eldrazi invaders. Mechanically, these decks are trying to do the same thing, and will probably share some cards, but by giving them each a moment in time that is their own story, they will play out very differently. And if you need inspiration for your cool moment, try building around story spotlights. With almost 250 to pick from, you can mix and match to create your own personalized epic adventure. Let's say you're a big fan of Nissa, and maybe you dislike what the Phyrexians did to her during All Will Be One, and so you're creating a commander deck that rewrites her story. Maybe Nissa was Elesh Norn's most wanted planeswalker, but with help from Ashaya, she was able to thwart the enemy, and after an epic confrontation with the Mother of Machines, Nissa stormed the Seed Core and closed the portal to Phyrexia before Realmbreaker could do its thing. Don't get hung up on the art in these story spotlights. It's okay if they don't all feature Nissa. They can still work to tell a story in your Nissa commander deck, one where she never has to endure a drop of Phyrexian oil. If that's the tale you want to see play out. Another way you could tell a story with your deck is by going after alternate win conditions. I admit this is a little harder in a format where you can only have one copy of a card, but maybe with help from an idyllic tutor or a secret rendezvous, King Kenrith can find the happily ever after he's been looking for. Or the story you tell could be one of inevitable defeat for your opponents. Maybe Niv Mizzet has unlocked the door to nothingness, or Atemsis has already foreseen their downfall. Having a narrative path to victory can be a lot of fun and definitely leads to some great moments of drama. But for me, the most memorable stories are the ones that leave us feeling something. Nicole's favorite commander deck tells a story by making the other players at the table squirm. She's got Ishkana leading an army of creepy crawlies, including spiders, insects, and other unsettling imagery that makes me lean back as far as I can whenever we play together. But that can be a way to tell a story too, facing your own fears, or forcing them upon your opponents. The inverse of that might be a deck that tells a story of honor or bravery and only allows one creature to attack each combat. Calmly defeating an entire commander pod individually across 3 different attack steps would make for an epic story, and maybe, with you holding the pen, the Samurai of Kamigawa could pull it off. But Ryan, what if all of this is overwhelming and I don't trust myself to tell a good or interesting story? Then what? Well, then you're in luck, because the 4 new Commander Masters pre-constructed decks are a great starting point for just about any type of story you could want to tell. Commodore Guff literally rewrites history in the Magic story, so you can definitely swap out the initial batch of Planeswalkers here for anyone you want to play with instead. The colorless deck could become a full-on Eldrazi invasion, or you could reforge it into Karn's junk drawer, full of obscure artifacts from all over the multiverse. Personally, I'm looking to get my hands on that Enchantments deck and load it up with sagas, and basically sculpt it into a giant bookshelf of magical stories that never end. And then there's the Slivers, who have been experimented on and weaponized so many times, you could write them a much happier existence. Or put on your Bolas horns and eternalize the best ones for the Dreadhorde army. From legends that act as our table of contents, to win conditions that give us a thrilling final chapter, you can use every one of your 100 cards to tell the story you want to tell. Commander is a hugely popular format, partly thanks to how much room it has for self-expression, but it's still easy to fall into the trap of replicating what you see other players do with their decks. So, my fellow lore mages, I challenge you to rise above that. Get creative, write your own story, and tell me about it down in the comments. Make sure you check out my link to order Commander Masters while you're down there, and then make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the great stories you'll only find here on Magic Arcanum. We'll see ya!